Good morning. Morning. Yeah, good morning. All this meeting is called to order. Ms. Troman, has anyone signed up for public comment? All right, under agenda item 3, we have no cases to reconsider.
That is correct.
Yeah, agenda item 4, tax liability cases. No cases on docket 26.
Correct.
No fair housing cases under agenda item 5.
That is correct.
Yep. On agenda item 6, there is, looks like one child labor case.
Yes, there is one child labor case. That is case number 25BL00869. Commissioner Esparza.
The child labor appeal tribunal decision may not be supportable based on the current record in the case. First, I believe that the safety of children has the highest priority in the law. And since the child labor laws primarily promote the safety of children in the workplace, properly enforcing those laws must always be one of our agency's top priorities. That having been said, I'm not convinced that a monetary penalty is the best way to resolve the violations at issue in this case. The employer did violate the current child labor hazardous duty regulations by allowing minor employees to empty small consumer-grade trash compactors used by customers in a public area of the restaurant. However, the violation was based on misinformation from TWC and the U.S. Department of Labor and on a good faith misunderstanding of the law. Once the employer found out that the regulations did not in fact change as DOL had signaled, the company stopped letting minors use the small compactors at all. I'm sorry, Commissioner Ellis. I will finish. Accordingly, my vote is to seek guidance from OGC as to whether under such circumstances, the penalty for a first-time violation may be reduced to a warning instead of a monetary fine.
The decision is supportable. The facts of this case are undisputed, and all parties agree that 3 minors under the age of 18 unloaded trash compactors at the direction of the employer. The child labor protection bans the operation of compactors by minors and do not distinguish based on the type of compactor. Therefore, the violation and penalty imposed should be affirmed. Affirm the special programs appeal decision, penalty of $1,281.25.
Commissioner Esparza, what is your vote on this?
We're voting, my vote is here to basically seek guidance from OGC, whether under circumstances, the penalty for a first-time violation, we're asking for a reduced, for this violation to be reduced to writing instead of a monetary fine. Let me clarify, Chairman, my apologies. My vote is to seek guidance from OGC as to whether under such circumstances, the penalty for a first-time violation may be reduced to writing instead of a monetary fine.
All right. My review of the law in this situation would indicate to me the law doesn't really make a distinction between the operation of a compactor and maintenance on a compactor. It talks solely about the operation of a trash compactor. I think when that law was written, because that law is fairly old, I think our picture of a trash compactor is very different from what we see today. And I think what the individuals in question were doing was maintenance on a trash compactor, not operating a trash compactor. I don't think the employers should be penalized either. But I think the law here is murky, and I think TWC's interpretation of the law, and I think the U.S. Department of Labor's interpretation of the law is just basically layers upon layers of us layering on top of the same law over and over and over again. And I don't think we have a clear picture of that. It is also completely unacceptable that the preliminary determination order provided the incorrect penalty and it was never corrected. There is a lot of messiness in this whole thing, starting with our people at TWC. I do think the employer probably didn't do this right. I don't think the law is clear. I think our handling of it was frankly not very good. My inclination is to reverse the decision and rescind the penalty, but I think the elements of law are too murky. I would ask for a rehearing the case to develop the record on what the legislature intended by this law. I want to know what the legislative intent was. I want to know what's been said about small trash compactors. I want to know what the law determines the difference between operating a trash compactor is and what doing maintenance on a trash compactor is. I want to know what's acceptable for 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and adults. I think the Office of General Counsel is the one to do that. I'm asking for a rehear. I think that needs to be informed by the General Counsel's office, and I think we need to do something to make sure that our folks that are investigating, I mean, like child labor stuff, pretty critical. Like we don't want kids getting hurt on the job. We need to avoid that at all costs. We need to have some common sense here. We need to do our job right at TWC.
We'll support a rehear.
All right, we will rehear the case. Sorry. We will rehear the case and do an OGC memo. Thank you.
On agenda item, that's it for child labor. On agenda item 7, no wage claim cases pulled for additional discussion.
That is correct. There are no wage claim cases pulled for additional discussion. However, you should have received the short form dissent list for the wage claim cases on docket 26.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on docket 26.
I second the motion, except for those cases which I am dissenting, as reflected on wage claim short form dissent list for docket 26.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting is reflected in wage claim short form dissent list for docket 26.
The motion passes with the exceptions noted. Keep hearing reverb on the speakers. I think it's one of the computers over here. All right, let's move to agenda item 8, in consideration of unemployment insurance cases on docket 26. Please proceed when you're ready.
Case number 3601885, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision should be modified. I agree that the claimant had good cause for AT1 because she never received the hearing notice in the mail. However, regarding the job separation, the claimant provided firsthand testimony that she sent her manager an email to inform the employer that she was unavailable to work on the weekend in question. When asked about her absences for that weekend, she also sent the employer a screenshot of the email that she sent to her manager. The employer said that it looked like the email was unsent, that was an unsent draft, but did not explain how they determined this or provided evidence to support this conclusion. The claimant testified that the screenshot showed that the email was in her outbox. Therefore, the employer has not met its burden of showing that the claimant engaged in misconduct connected with the work by failing to provide notice of her final absences. Modify the AT. Claimant had good cause for AT1, no misconduct, chargeback, void adequate response. In the alternative, this case should be reheard so that parties can provide further evidence to establish whether the email the claimant sent to the employer about her inability to work on the weekend in question actually transmitted.
We should modify the AT decision. First, I don't contest the good cause issue. Concerning job separation, the claimant was on a decision-making leave due to her attendance infractions. Despite being aware that further incidents would lead to termination, the claimant accrued additional attendance violations when she did not inform the employer about her time off and was absent without notice. Since the claimant was aware of the employer's attendance rules, her failure to effectively communicate with her employer about further absences constituted misconduct connected with work. As such, we should modify the AT decision. The claimant established good cause for missing the AT hearing, misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate employer response.
Good cause, misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate response.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
Thank you. Have your short form dissent.
Case number 3667057, Commissioner Esparza.
We should grant a rehearing in this case. On docket 7, we voted to rehear this case for additional evidence regarding job separation, including admission and review of documents submitted by the employer. The employer called in late for the hearing and sent an email requesting that the hearing be rescheduled because one of its witnesses the claimant's supervisor was taking her sick child to the doctor. Based on this allegation, we should grant a rehearing to examine whether the employer had good cause for missing a hearing and, if appropriate, take merits testimony from the employer as originally intended. I ask to rehear.
The AT decision is correct. The employer discharged the claimant alleging insufficient work quality. However, the employer did not present evidence that they had given the claimant any warning or notice that her job performance was placing her job in jeopardy. Additionally, the employer did not appear for the rehear that they were granted to provide further evidence regarding the claimant's separation. Therefore, the employer has not met its burden of showing that the claimant was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Rehear.
We will rehear the case.
Case number 3676210, Commissioner Esparza.
The AD decision should be affirmed. I agree that the claimant filed a valid claim. As to the job separation, the claimant was fired for following a suspected shoplifter outside the employer's store, which was in violation of company policy. The employer's policy was clear. Employees should not pursue a suspected shoplifter. That's exactly what the claimant did by following the suspected shoplifter outside the store. Claimant signed an acknowledgement that he received the employer's handbook and policy in question, stated that the violation of the same can result in discharge. The employer testified that the purpose for the policy was the safety of store staff, which is an employer interest of paramount importance. Accordingly, since the claimant violated the employer policy that was implemented to ensure the safety of employees, he mismanaged his position of employment, which was misconduct connected with the work. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, valid claim, misconduct, no chargeback.
The AT decision should be modified. I agree that the claimant filed a valid initial claim. However, as a work separation, the employer discharged the claimant for allegedly violating its policy in addressing an incident with a suspected shoplifter. While the claimant admitted to leaving the store while following the suspected shoplifter, the evidence established that the claimant never directly confronted the individual and left the store to watch the subject or the suspect, as was required by the policy. Since the claimant's actions were an isolated incident and did not specifically violate the employer's policy, he was discharged for reasons other than misconduct connected with the work. Modify the AT, claimant filed a valid claim, no misconduct, chargeback.
Valid claim, no misconduct, chargeback.
Short form dissent.
I have your short form dissent.
Case number 3688734, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant worked for two employers, and one of her jobs was a seasonal position where she worked very few hours in all but a few months of the year. When her hours in the job were reduced at the end of the season, her employer suggested that she file for unemployment benefits due to the reduction. The claimant reported to TWC when filing that she had two jobs, but mistakenly believed she only needed to report her hours worked each week from the job where her hours were reduced. Because of that was the basis for the claim. Many other claimants make similar mistakes and are similarly issued an earnings adjustment overpayment. There is no evidence that distinguishes the claimant's failure to report her earnings as anything other than a misunderstanding. The claimant's actions did not rise to the level of willful non-disclosure or misrepresentation that is required for a fraud filing. Modify the AT, no fraud, recalculate overpayment.
The AT decision is supportable. The claimant failed to report her work and earnings from a part-time job while she was claiming to be unemployed. She received the basic information from TWC regarding claim filing requirements, including the need to report all work and earnings while filing benefit claims. When filing her claim, she falsely answered the very clear question relating to work and earnings during the claim filing period and thereby claimed benefits to which she was not entitled. Accordingly, We should affirm the AT decision. The claimant committed claim fraud covering the period from April 23rd of 2023 through April 20th of 2024, overpayment of $4,723.
Affirm the AT, fraud, forfeiture, overpayment.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
I have your short form dissent.
Case number 3688737, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not supportable. This case involves the same issues as the companion case. And in the companion case, the claimant's actions did not rise to the level of willful non-disclosure or misrepresentation that is required for a fraud finding. Modify the AT, no fraud, recalculate overpayment.
The AT decision is supportable, just as in a companion case on this docket involving another employer. The claimant failed to report her work and earnings from a seasonal job while she was claiming to be unemployed. Question on the claim certification was very clear about the need to fully report all work and earnings during the claim weeks, and she answered those questions falsely. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision. The claimant committed claim fraud covering the period of April 23rd, 2023 through April 20th, 2024, overpayment of $4,723.
Affirm the AT, fraud, forfeiture, overpayment.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
I have your short form dissent.
Case number 3702074, Commissioner Esparza.
We should reverse the AT decision. The employer prioritizes a safe and secure work environment and restricted employee interaction with inmates to essential safety and medical needs. The claimant was terminated for engaging in appropriate conduct, including small talk and flirtatious behavior with an inmate. The employer's investigation further revealed that the claimant knew several inmates personally and had inappropriate contact with them. Furthermore, despite being aware of the employer's requirements to carry a radio and to maintain preceptor and supervision during training, the claimant knowingly violated the employer's directives. The claimant left her trainer without the radio and independently administered medication to an inmate. Since the claimant was aware of the employer's policy on maintaining a secure work environment, her violation of the employer's work rules constituted misconduct connected with work. As such, we should reverse the AT decision, misconduct, reimbursing employer not billed, adequate employer response, change employer name and account number.
The AT decision should be modified to correct the employer's name and account number. However, the decision on the separation issue should be affirmed. The employer discharged the claimant without citing any final incident. Additionally, the termination letter sent to the claimant simply listed the separation reason as unsuitable fit. At the AT hearing, the employer alleged that the claimant engaged in some inappropriate communication with inmates. But these allegations were all based on secondhand reports, and the claimant denied having any contact with inmates. The employer had not issued the claimant any warnings or advised her that anything she was doing was putting her job in jeopardy. Therefore, the employer did not meet its burden of showing that the claimant was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Modify the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer, correct employer's name and account number.
No misconduct, bill reimbursing employer, correct the employer name and account.
Short form dissent.
I have your short form dissent.
Case number 3712965, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant was informed upon hire that she had to pass an exam to retain employment. However, she was also told at the time of hire that she would have 3 chances to pass the exam. It was only after accepting the job and preparing for the exam that she was told that she was required to achieve a threshold score on the first attempt in order to be allowed to take it again. The information about the required score to retake the exam was also not included in the employer's written policy. The claimant fell short of the required score on her first attempt, and she was not allowed to retake the exam. Therefore, because the claimant was told at hire that she would have 3 chances to pass the exam and was not informed of the minimum score requirement, the claimant's failure to pass the exam on the first attempt does not constitute misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant was aware that passing the exam in question was a condition of employment. Claimant admitted to receiving written company policy requiring passing the exam. Claimant failed to pass the exam. Consequently, the claimant did not meet the employer's known condition of employment. Pursuant to commission precedent, the claimant's action constituted the equivalent of misconduct connected with the work. We should therefore affirm the AT decision of misconduct.
Rehear to review the employer's test-taking policy and any correspondence between the employer and the claimant.
I'll agree with the chairman to rehear.
Thank you. We will rehear the case.
Case number 3713322, Commissioner Esparza.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant missed work due to illness. Generally, missing work due to illness with proper notice to the employer is not misconduct connected with the work. However, in this case, the claimant freely admits in testimony that she did not call in during the days that she was absent, which resulted in multiple no-call, no-shows. Accordingly, the claimant's absences without notice to the employer constituted misconduct connected with the work. We should therefore affirm the AT decision misconduct.
The decision is not correct. The employer discharged the claimant for missing 2 days of work due to illness. The claimant testified that she was unable to work because of pain that she was experiencing due to a medical issue. Since the claimant's absences from work were due to medical reasons, and she provided medical documentation as proof of her medical condition, which caused her to miss work, her separation for reasons other than misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
Misconduct.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
I have your short form dissent.
Case number 3720987, Commissioner Esparza.
We should affirm the AT decision. According to her fact-finding statements, the claimant was informed that she would be placed under investigation for violation of the employer's rules. The employer explicitly told her she was not going to be fired. Nonetheless, the claimant decided to resign to avoid investigation and possible persecution or prosecution stemming from the allegations. The claimant testified that she was told to resign, but this is not consistent with her prior fact-finding statements to TWC, which should be given greater weight. Because the claimant chose to resign while work was still available, she initiated job separations. By quitting to avoid investigation and possible disciplinary action, she quit without good cause connected with the work. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, reimbursing employer not billed.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant testified she was given the option to either resign or the employer would pursue criminal charges based upon allegations that she acted inappropriately while interacting with inmates. Since the claimant was given the option to either resign or face criminal prosecution, the employer initiated the job separation. The employer failed to provide any direct evidence regarding the allegations, while the claimant provided credible firsthand testimony denying the allegations of misconduct. Therefore, the employer failed to meet its burden of proving that the claimant was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer.
Voluntary leaving, reimbursing employer not billed.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
I have your short form dissent.
Case number 3742960, Commissioner Trevino.
The decision is not fully supportable. I agree that the claimant established good cause for AT1. Regarding the job separation, the claimant testified that he informed the employer, a home health care company, that his assignment had ended due to the death of his patient, who was also his brother. He asked for another assignment, and after his bereavement period, was offered 2 different assignments, neither of which were suitable due to the distance required for travel and the hours of work per day. The employer did not offer any firsthand testimony or documentary evidence to refute the claimant's testimony. Therefore, the claimant had good cause connected with the work for quitting when the employer failed to offer him adequate additional work after his assignment ended. Modify the AT, Claimant established good cause for AT1, no voluntary leaving, chargeback.
We should affirm the AT decision. First, I don't dispute the good cause finding. Concerning job separation, the claimant declined additional assignments offered to him by the employer. Under the home health care precedent, the claimant's actions clearly notified the employer that the employment relationship had ended. Since the claimant initiated the job separation due to transportation issues, he is considered to have quit without good cause connected with the work. So affirm the AT decision, the claimant had good cause for his non-appearance, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Good cause, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
I have your short form dissent. That was the last pulled case, UI case for docket 26. You should have received the short form dissent list for the UI cases on docket 26.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 26.
I second the motion, except for those cases which I am dissenting as reflected on UI short form dissent list for docket 26.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in UI short form dissent list for docket 26.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted. We'll take a short recess.
Thank you.
Yeah, staying Thursday, Friday. Oh, is that what it's called? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We have reservations.
You have another, no, altitude. When we go with life insurance. Before we know the answer. Oh, really? You're gonna need to stay. It actually, it's just. All right, we're back. This is agenda item 9, distribution of RESEA performance outcome payments.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioner, and Mr. Cerna. Texas has earned performance outcome payments every year since 2022. The commission has approved to distribute these funds to local workforce development boards as performance and training incentives based on how well they provide services to customers. Staff is presenting for your consideration the performance outcome payment distribution. The discussion paper includes 3 decision points. Decision point 1, reallocating to Panhandle, Concho Valley, and Deep East $125,202 from the previous year's incentive. Decision point 2, allocate roughly $1.6 million to all 28 boards as performance and training incentives. And decision point 3, allocating approximately $1.3 million to boards experiencing higher than normal profile pools, and the remaining balance of a whopping $8,293 to TWC for RESEA administration. Staff recommends the commission approval of the performance outcome distribution consistent with the decision points, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions?
None here.
No questions, Chairman.
All right, on issue 1. So these 3 boards, they did not spend their money during the contract year they were supposed to spend their money. And so we're giving them the money back. Is that what we're doing there?
Correct.
Okay. On decision point 2, I just want to make sure I understand this chart correctly. It looks like 16 of 28 boards did not get to at least 70% less than half the time. Is that correct, what I'm seeing?
That is also correct, sir.
57% of the boards did not get at least 70% of their work done more than half the time. And then in issue item 3, most of the boards on this list that are getting additional money are the boards that didn't get their work done at least half the time on the list before. So the boards that did do a good job, like I think we had several 10-month winners. I don't think we had any. Oh, there's an 11. I don't see any of them on this list. Just help me understand real quick why we're giving extra money to boards that can't get their work done when there are boards that get their work done. Or help me understand it if I'm not understanding it correctly.
Yeah. So for decision point 3, the boards that are getting the additional funds, it's because they've had more than a 10% increase in customers in the profile pool. So in order for them to be staffed up to provide the services because they have a larger influx of customers, that's why we're giving them the money.
Okay, so, but there's still the boards that didn't get their work done in issue item 2.
Yeah, and so we work with those boards. We have been working with them one-on-one to improve their failure to report rates so that they are providing services to all the customers.
Okay, thank you.
Would
Any
there-
other questions?
Would there be an opportunity to recalculate those that are, like you pointed out, are conducting business using the resource? There may be reasons why,
Yeah, I don't know.
the attention doesn't go directly to to the folks that aren't making their 70% completion rate.
Yeah, there's like five boards that didn't complete at least 70% in any month, 0 months. And a good chunk of them are on this decision point 3 list as well. I understand it's two different things. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's an up or down vote today.
When would the when does the funding get reallocated? Or what's the timing of this?
So once this will actually be a change to their current board contract. So as soon as the commission passes the action, because we have to spend this money we have to allocate it by the end of December.
Okay.
All right, is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the reemployment services and eligibility assessment program performance outcome payment distribution plan as described in the discussion paper and presented today by staff.
Is there a second? All right, motion dies for lack of second. We'll revisit this issue. Let's get it put on the agenda for a subsequent commission meeting. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Let's see, we've got something on agenda item 10 here, but I think we covered all of that yesterday afternoon. If there's nothing to bring back up, we'll move on with the agenda. Is there a nope, there's not a legislative report today.
They're in Washington
They're in Washington.
Today, yeah.
Well, help us all.
monitoring.
We sent Michael to Washington.
And Tom,
Did Michael take his good tie?
he probably did.
Probably did. Is there an executive director's report today?
No, sir, there's not.
Is there any other order of business come before the commission?
Nothing here.
No, Chairman.
Hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Chairman, I move to adjourn.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Votes unanimous and we're adjourned.